For decades, the world treated Iran's military claims as mere bluster, but recent events have proven that its homegrown technology is far more lethal than we wanted to admit. When a nation starts exporting the very drones that are currently changing modern battlefields, it's time to start looking at them as a global threat. There's much more to worry about when it comes to Iran's military technology than meets the eye. So, let's dive right in. The end of the Shadow War. For years, the conflict between Iran, Israel, and the United States was fought in the shadows. It was a game of cat and mouse, played out through cyber attacks, covert assassinations of scientists, and mysterious explosions at nuclear facilities. But in April 2024, the Shadow War finally stepped into the light. Following a strike on an Iranian diplomatic building in Damascus that killed 7 senior commanders, Tehran did something it had never done before. It launched a direct, massive assault from Iranian soil toward Israel. This wasn't a warning shot. It involved hundreds of drones and missiles aimed at the heart of Israeli-controlled territory. While the world watched to see if the Iron Dome would hold, the real takeaway was the sheer scale of the operation. It proved that Iran is no longer just a country that talks about power. It is a country that can project it across thousands of miles. This single event shifted the global curiosity about Iran's military from "is it real?" to "how do we stop it?" The 11 million man myth? When you look at the raw numbers, Iran's manpower is staggering. They currently sit at the 14th spot out of 145 countries in the global firepower ranking. For 2024, they maintain an active duty force of about 580,000 personnel, with another 200,000 inches the trained reserves. But here's the number that usually makes people double-check the math: 11 million. This refers to the Basij, a paramilitary volunteer force under the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. While they aren't all frontline soldiers in the traditional sense, they represent a massive pool of ideologically loyal individuals who can be mobilized for internal security or asymmetric warfare. If you're wondering why a ground invasion of Iran is considered a nightmare scenario by every major military, this is your answer. You wouldn't just be fighting an army, you'd be fighting a population. This creates a level of strategic depth that makes even the most technologically advanced nations, like the US, hesitate before engaging in a direct ground war. The drone revolution: cheap, lethal, and everywhere. If there is one area where Iran has truly surprised the world, it is in their unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. They have mastered the art of low-cost, high-impact warfare. While the US builds million-dollar drones that require massive satellite links, Iran builds drones like the Shahed and Arash that are cheap enough to lose, but lethal enough to win. The heavy hitters of the Iranian drone fleet. These include the Arash, which is a suicide or kamikaze drone with a flight range of 2,000 kilometers. It's essentially a slow-moving cruise missile that can loiter over a target for 8.5 hours before striking. The Fotros is Iran's big-wing drone. It has a range of 2,000 kilometers and can stay airborne for up to 30 hours, making it perfect for long-range surveillance and precision strikes. The Mohajer 6 is another tactical drone with a 200 kilometers range, often seen carrying precision-guided munitions. Wait, here's the part no one tells you. What makes these drones a global concern is their detectability. Iranian media claims these drones are designed to fly low, hugging the terrain to avoid radar. They aren't trying to out-tech a radar system, they're trying to hide under it. We've already seen these drones being exported to Russia for use in Ukraine and showing up in conflicts across Sudan. Iran has turned affordable lethality into a global export business. Before we move deeper into Iran's missile cities and proxy networks, take a moment to hit that like button if you find this breakdown eye-opening. And don't forget to subscribe because we've got a lot more on global military tech coming your way. The missile cities, underground. Iran possesses the largest and most diverse arsenal of ballistic missiles in the Middle East. We're talking about thousands of cruise and ballistic missiles, some with ranges exceeding 2,000 kilometers, about 1,200 miles. From Tehran, they can hit targets in Israel, Southeast Europe, and every US base in the region. But it's not just about the distance, it's about the accuracy. Over the last decade, Iran has moved away from dumb missiles that just fall in a general area and toward precision-guided systems using solid fuel. Why does solid fuel matter? It's a game changer because it allows missiles to be stored fully fueled and launched on a moment's notice, making them much harder for satellites to spot before they're in the air. The most terrifying part? They don't keep these missiles in open warehouses. Iran has built missile cities, massive, fortified bunkers buried deep underground. These facilities are often hundreds of feet below solid rock and protected by layers of air defenses. They are designed to survive a first strike and launch a counterattack from the shadows. The axis of resistance, proxy power. You can't talk about Iran's military without talking about its proxies. The Quds Force, an elite unit of the IRGC, is responsible for the axis of resistance. This is a network of non-state actors that acts as a force multiplier for Tehran. Hezbollah, Lebanon, is considered the most powerful non-state military in the world, equipped with advanced Iranian missiles. The Houthis, Yemen, are capable of disrupting global shipping in the Red Sea using Iranian-provided intelligence and anti-ship missiles. Hamas and Islamic Jihad, Gaza, are keeping Israel occupied on its doorstep. These groups give Iran plausible deniability. They can strike at Western interests without ever firing a shot from Iranian soil. Analysts believe that in a full-scale war, these militias would act as a regional allied force, attacking from multiple fronts simultaneously, effectively swarming any opposition. The domestic pivot. Why sanctions failed? The common logic was that international sanctions would starve Iran of the tech it needed to build a modern military, but it backfired. In 1989, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei made a strategic decision. Iran would never rely on foreign powers for its defense again. They turned inward, creating a domestic weapons industry that reverse engineers everything they can get their hands on. In 2011, when Iran captured an American RQ-170 Sentinel drone, they didn't just put it in a museum. They took it apart, studied the tech, and used it to launch their own line of stealth-style drones. Today, Iran produces their own armored vehicles, small submarines, some based on North Korean designs, and even their own fighter jets. While their homegrown tanks like the Zulfikar might not be as advanced as an American Abrams, they are numerous, easy to fix, and tailored for the Middle Eastern landscape. Cyber warfare, the invisible front line. Iran is widely recognized as one of the top 5 cyber armies in the world. They realized early on that they couldn't win a traditional air-to-air dogfight with the US or Israel, so they invested in the digital battlefield. Since the 2009 election unrest, Iran has massively increased its ability to conduct cyber warfare. They don't just hack for information, they hack for disruption. China has even accused the US of starting a cyber war against Iran via platforms like YouTube and Twitter to foment unrest. In response, Iran established specialized garrisons in cities like Zanjan and Isfahan solely for digital combat. They can target infrastructure, banks, and communication networks from thousands of miles away, proving that a nation's military power isn't just about how much lead they can throw, it's about how many bits they can flip. The weak link, the aging Air Force. If Iran has a heel, it's their Air Force. Most of their aircraft are relics from the 1970s F-14 Tomcats and F-4 Phantoms bought during the era of the Shah. Many of these are grounded due to a lack of spare parts, though Iran has become masterful at cannibalizing old planes to keep a few in the air. They did buy a small fleet from Russia in the 1990s, and they've recently launched their 4th-generation fighters, but they are still decades behind the F-35S used by Israel and the US. This is exactly why Iran focuses so heavily on missiles and drones. They know they can't win the sky with pilots, so they've decided to win it with robots and rockets. Iran versus Israel. The statistical breakdown. When you put these two powers side by side, the paper stats tell a fascinating story. Iran is ahead in terms of pure numbers and naval assets. Iran has 101 warships, including a massive fleet of speedboats and small submarines designed for swarm attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. Israel has 67. It leads with 65,000 to Israel's 43,000, and it also has a massive troop advantage, both in active duty and reserves. However, Israel spends significantly more per capita, about $2,000 per person, compared to Iran's much smaller $5.5 billion total defense budget in 2024. Israel has the Iron Dome, the Jericho nuclear-capable missiles, and a high-tech edge that Iran simply cannot match in a one-on-one technology race. But Iran's strategy isn't to be better than Israel, it's to be too expensive to fight. They use their 34 submarines and thousands of rocket projectors to ensure that even a win for an enemy would come at a cost of millions of lives and the total collapse of the regional economy. The chemical legacy. One of the most sobering reasons to be concerned about Iran is its history with chemical and biological weapons. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, Iran suffered tens of thousands of casualties from Iraqi chemical weapons. Today, over 30,000 Iranians are still dying from the long-term effects of mustard gas exposure. This trauma led Iran to develop its own chemical stockpile as a deterrent, though it ratified the Chemical Weapons Convention in 1997. However, their advanced genetic engineering and vaccine production capabilities mean they have the infrastructure for biological warfare if they ever chose to pivot. Their medical specialists are now some of the world's leading experts in treating chemical burns, and expertise born out of a tragedy they are determined never to repeat. Why the concern is real. Iran is a unique military power because it is asymmetric. They don't play by the rules of the 20th century. They don't care about having the best tank if they can send $1,000, $20,000 drones to destroy it. They don't care about having the best air force if they can hide their missiles in underground cities that no bunker buster can reach. Now, when you look at the 11 million potential soldiers and the thousands of drones being shipped worldwide, do you think the West is doing enough to counter Iran's domestic tech? Or have we already let the ghost out of the bottle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and before you leave, hit that subscribe button for more.